is important in all the 4 focus areas of the framework. One is sustainable use of land and water. The second one is production of adequate food to feed the population. And the third is in the area of infrastructure. And the other one is to get high nutritive food to feed the population. Beginning with the land and water component, rice is a crop that is widely adapted. It's adapted in the upland areas where there's rain-fed area and in slopy areas which are prone to erosion. Then they're also adapted to edges of swamps. There are varieties that are suitable to that. And there are those that are adapted to even flooded areas. So when you're talking of sustainable land use and sustainable use of water, rice becomes a commodity that fits in all those strata. We therefore have to come with science that make us use those areas in a sustainable way. And that focus, the focus number 1, fits very well. As an African continent, varieties have been developed that are suitable for those different locations. One of the things done is to make sure that they are not susceptible to pests and diseases, so that spraying is eliminated. Rice is a crop that is grown in extensive area. So if you bring the use of chemicals, then you are loading the soil with a lot of organic chemicals. So inorganic and organic. So what we do, we make sure that they are resistant to most of the stresses, and that's the work of research.
Doctor, you bring in something very, very important. Of course, you are coming up with varieties of different of rice.
Yes. Different
varieties. But also, probably shall also talk about it if time allows us. You've also got sweet potatoes.
Yes.
That one I think is another, that is at Kawanda probably. But let's look at rice. Now, we are used to rice being grown in swamps. Yeah. And in relation to what is happening today in Uganda, about the summit, when we look at climate change, we find that we must have the swamps in order for us not to affect, to have repercussions as far as planting rice in swamps, because it affects the environment. So, Doctor, about the rice breeds that you are coming up with, where are you going to be, planting?
Investing more.
Investing, especially where are you going to be planting this rice, and how are we sure that it's not going to affect the environment? Because as I've just said, we know that rice is mostly planted in swamps.
Yeah, in Uganda, we have 3 production areas. We have the upland area, we have the rain-fed lowland, then also the irrigated areas. And we have done everything possible to get varieties that are suitable to most of those areas. In the upland areas, yield penalties are common because of tailing of rains or also beginning of rains in a very irregular way. So we developed what we call drought-tolerant rice varieties. And in the last 10 years, the variety we developed with support from NARO and other donors in the government of Uganda are called the Namche variety, in recognition of the station we belong to, called Namolonge, and the Mchele being an East African acronym. So these are drought-tolerant varieties, and they're widely grown in the country and in other parts of the region. So in the upland area, we have addressed that from the perspective of having climate resilience embedded. But also acceptability is another issue. We have to make sure the variety is acceptable. The rice varieties that were introduced first in East Africa were aromatic. So any East African elder or young believes aromatic rice is the premium one, unlike other parts of the world. So we make sure that the new varieties have aroma in them. And therefore, when you get our varieties, meal, you won't know that it's Namche. Some of them are now aromatic. So it's sorted for the market segment. Now, in the lowland area, recognizing the fact that the lowland area is fragile, and we normally open the land and plant almost 2 to 3 times a year, and we pump with a lot of chemicals, we came up with varieties that we call perennial rice. These are rice varieties that when you plant, you harvest 3 to 4 times without replowing, without spraying, without doing any disturbance in the soil. So microorganisms will increase as if it's a normal swamp. Then even the soil disturbances we normally do will not be there. In other words, we are simulating what birds do. Birds go to the swamp, pick the grains, and take without plowing. So in that way, sustainability of the swamp is very assured. And that's the direction we are taking. We are going to map areas. They are already designated areas in the country for production of rice, but we are going to bring this technology in those areas and have higher production. Because now you can get 9 to 12 tons by harvesting 3 times, instead of having to plow twice, investing, using a lot of input. From that angle, we see that having a perennial rice will make us address the issue of unplanned utilization of swamp, which is bringing a lot of degradation and environmental concerns associated with. That is how we are the key technologies. And then on the perennial rice, Uganda is the first country to have released it in the whole of Africa. We released it in 2021. And in September last year, NEPAD.
And you intend to spread this good news to the rest of the continent?
Correct.
Beginning with the East African community?
Yes. Immediately we released, NEPAD took it up. And NEPAD is the arm that is coordinating this Caadp meeting. It was taken in September as a technology that should be deployed all over Africa. So we see that what has been developed in Uganda is already relevant across the region. Now bringing the question that came at the opening, that the sharing of technology, trade is now open. Now, there are also restrictions in the use of technologies, but we have a very good plan that is in the East African community, in the African continent, that technologies generated can be shared under some conditions. And that is why, when Uganda was still young in rice research, the first variety we released called Nerika 4 was not bred by Ugandan scientists. It was done by West Africa. But under that arrangement, where Uganda is a member of the Africa Rice Body, we are entitled to benefit from it. And so we had a takeover, a takeoff. Now, after some years now, we can develop what other countries can benefit from. We are now relevant to a number of them.
Okay, Doctor, of course, it's interesting, but I also heard in the corridors somewhere that you are coming up with what you've called black rice. Now, we have not seen black rice in Uganda. I don't know. I have not seen it myself. However, my question is, this kind of variety, we are talking about food security and food that is resilient to most of the harsh conditions when it comes to the weather in Africa. So tell us a little bit more about the black rice that you are coming up with, and whether it's going to solve this problem of food insecurity, not only in Uganda but also on the African continent, because we are looking at Africa today.
Yeah, recognizing the fact that much of the starch we take, sources of starch we take, doesn't have a lot of nutrients, and Uganda consumes a lot of starch. We, as NARO, found that we have to embed nutrients in all starch sources, and that's why my colleague will come and talk about other root crops. Now, in case of rice, we looked at a commodity or a product we call black rice. It's just the name that makes it a little...
People, when they hear black, okay, they means, okay, we are used to this white rice. Okay, well, let's look for this black rice now.
Okay, let me start even with the white rice. The white rice we consume is a mutation error in the black rice. The original rice that was available was black, and our old people were eating black rice. Now, when it got mutated, changed into white, the breeders started selecting white, and now it's more appealing, and we think white is the black one. White is the color. But now, us as breeders, we know that black rice has high dense nutrients. One of them is what we call anthocyanin. Anthocyanin is actually an antioxidant, which helps functioning of all body organs. And now, since it is so good, and it is important, and we normally get it in other fruits, vegetables, that has a lot more water, and it's difficult to store. When it is in rice, rice is about 12–14% dry moisture. So it means when you have it, you can store for long. One advantage. Two, per unit gram, there's a higher level of anthocyanin. For every 100 gram, you have around 300 to 400 milligrams of anthocyanin. That means just a few spoons, you have something suitable for your body. And now the white rice has much less, actually zero. So black rice is a product that we are bringing from the health perspective, saying that let it be nutrient dense. It has high level of anthocyanin, it has high level of iron, minerals and vitamins in stable form. So it can now be diluted through cooking and you consume. So we have rolled it out as high nutrient or nutrient dense, but the color is black. Now, the moment you dilute, you get a shade of colors ranging from yellow, coming to red, and coming to purple, different colors depending on level of dilution. So in some places, it's actually used as a food colorant. So it's not black anymore when it's in the table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And viewer, we are having this interview, and of course, it's part of what's going on at Munyonyo. And of course, this is the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program Summit that opened earlier today at Munyonyo. And with me in the studio is Dr. Jimmy Lambo, who is the program lead maize and rice research at the National Crops Resources Research Institute, NACRI, and he's a rice breeder specifically. That's what he does. And we're talking about rice because rice is seen as one of those crops that can actually help in fighting or solving the issue of lack of food or food insecurity on the African continent. And Doctor, there is also this thing, what you've just been talking about. Something comes to mind about NACRI's, partnership with governments, research institutions, and the private sector. How are you working with them to promote sustainable rice production?
We are actually using strategic partnership arrangement based on different commodities. I give an example in rice. In rice, we have from the donor community, the interested donor communities starting from Gates Foundation, coming to BGI in China, and Japan, JICA, and also Korean government. And of course the government of Uganda, giving us the infrastructure and making sure that staff are paid and they are working on rice like me. Now, that puts us in a position where funding is additional funding is got, but also infrastructure is received. For example, we are going to have an Africa-wide center for perennial rice research in Uganda, in Amulonge, with funding from China, based on the fact that we are leading in that area. Now, other players that we work with are like AGRA, Alliance for Green Revolution for Africa, and they train our personnel, and they also support in seed production. Up to now, my PhD was supported by AGRA and government of Uganda. So we get support from partners, but one key one is Africa Rice. Africa Rice is a unique association of African states, member countries, and Uganda is a member. Uganda joined in 2005. That one has a mandate to support African countries in research whenever they are developing the new varieties. And also when you have a challenge, you can be supported. A case in point, when Mali got into situation.
Sorry, Dr. to cut you short, but viewer, what you are seeing on your screen there, that is a parade that is mounted. That is at Entebbe International Airport, and of course we're expecting guests and other high-ranking officials from other nations from the African continent to be arriving in the country to be part of this very, very important summit, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Summit happening in Munyonyo, and we are expecting guests to keep coming into the country because the summit started today and it will be ending on the 11th of this month. And so those are the pictures on your screen that you're seeing right now. But of course, we will continue to update you on what's happening. But right now, I'm with Dr. Jimmy Lamo. And yes, Jimmy, Doctor, you can continue what you are saying.
So Africa Rice is an association of member states of Africa. They came up to support Africa in the component of rice. And they have an office in Cote d'Ivoire. And Uganda has also a regional office in Namlonge. In that, we can be supported through research, through training of young people, but most important is that if a country is weak in an area, they can be supported. A case in point is that when Mali went through a situation where they didn't have seed, Uganda lifted Nerika seed from here to Mali under that arrangement. Then now that we have also developed varieties that are liked by other countries, under the same Caadp, under the same arrangement with Africa Rice, the germplasm can be shared. So we see that a Caadp, Africa Rice, and bodies like CIMIT, we are working with them closely to make sure we benefit as a country. Uganda is actually one of the best members paying country subscription to Africa Rice, and puts us on top. And two top scientists in Africa Rice are Ugandans, which means we have a good foot in the rice research in Africa.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. And those are very, very good insights there. And of course, the other question that comes to mind, of course, NACRI, you've told us the people or institutions that you're working with. But the other thing is, what targets would you like to see Uganda achieve in the rice sector under Caadp's agricultural transformation agenda?
Currently, Uganda is 70% self-sufficient in rice.
70%?
70%. Producing around 700.
Do we consume that here in Uganda, or we even sell outside the country?
That's interesting, because the production...
Because to me, that's a lot of rice.
Production is 730,000 metric tons. It's not a lot, because the urban areas is consuming a lot of rice. In the rural areas, there's less rice consumption, and that's why even when we import, it's still consumed, because around 230,000 metric tons is imported to fill the gap. Yeah. But your question is right. There are some quantity of rice that goes across Uganda to other countries. Yes. And also rice produced in the border areas, like in Doho, they are sold into Kenya in the period when Kenya does not have adequate rice. They have one season and Uganda has 2 seasons. So there's a period they use their high purchasing power to take it. South Sudan the same way. So our statistics needs to be checked, but we are feeding the region. And we are producing. It means we can now step up production because the market is there. Yeah. So we see ourselves that if we can reach around 80 to 90% self-sufficient in rice production, it would be helpful. Why? The current 70%, if you look at it in terms of import substitution, it's around $300 million saved for rice. If we didn't grow it, we would have to import at more than $300 million. So our farmers are saving us a lot by producing, and we are buying and consuming, but we don't feel it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Of course, that is Dr. Jimmy Lamo. He's giving us some very, very important insight here, and as far as rice, and on your screen you can see the people who are planting rice in swamps, and we do hope, Doctor, as you already said, that the rice varieties that you are coming up with will not impact on the environment, because that is something that has actually, in some other areas, it has actually been stopped by the government. You are not allowed to grow rice in swamps because it is affecting the environment. So we do hope that the varieties here will definitely, not affect the environment. But also, Doctor, the other thing that probably you can tell the viewer here is we are producing enough rice. Well, maybe not enough.
Not yet, yeah.
Not yet there.
Yeah.
However, what we are producing, we are looking at, most times, we don't produce for consumption. We produce for trade, to sell outside.
Yeah.
2 questions. Is it enough that we can export? And secondly, are we at that level right now as a country where we can say, okay, we're producing enough rice and we are actually sorting out, poverty? Because when you look at the people who are into this business, especially the smallholder farmers, they are producing this rice, but still they are poor. Yeah. So how, as NACRI, these rice varieties, how do you think they can help this person in the village who has a small piece of land growing rice, come out of poverty?
First, the first part of the question is about the level of sufficiency.
Yes, yes.
Indeed, we are not yet self-sufficient in rice, and that makes the price to keep varying. What is produced is marketed. All is used. And our rice farmers sell 90% of what they produce to the mushrooming urban areas, which is a good thing. But statistics shows that the only country in Africa which is self-sufficient in rice at the moment is only Tanzania. The rest, it is porous sharing of grain across the border. That means it's an opportunity for Uganda and even Tanzania to plan the production in a way that makes them capture the market and also the booming increase in demand, because the youth are not going to change soon from their demand for rice. It's just growing and the population is growing. Mm-hmm. Now, coming to profitability of rice farming, this goes to what the government has always been saying. What is the minimum size of land for a particular investment? In the case of rice, an upland rice farmer who is growing 1 acre will not make profit. Who is growing 1.5 acre will not make profit. Reason is using the same resources to scare birds. The same resources, a lot of time wasting in that small garden. So an upland rice farmer will make profit with around 4. We did a study around 4 acres. There it will make profit because input in bird scaring is almost the same. Then under irrigation, we found that someone that has a 1/2 acre will get good, will break even, will now start making profit. And now with our variety, which are higher yielding, even those who have smaller plots will get down more because they plant it once, less investment, harvesting 3 times. So we are seeing that with good planning and working with our environmentalists, we only within the areas that have been demarcated for production according to the government law, we will demonstrate. And there's what we call smart valley farming. Actually,
smart valley farming.
Smart valley farming. All our farming system, we don't respect the slope. And we force leveling so that we mechanize easily. And in that way, we lose fertility. But for you to do it well, respect the way the slope is. Do minimal banding and grow your crops along those slopes. And that is already working in rice. And we are demonstrating with a JICA project. And it's making, when you go to locations where there was no rice growing, it's slopey, but rice is being grown. Those are the things we are coming up with. And closer to the swamp, we are actually losing, without even rice, we are losing a lot more nutrients into the swamp. So we need what crops should be grown closer to the swamp and what should be at the upper area. And that planning is what we should come together and do a planning that make not only rice, but all commodities are beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And of course, there are so many things that the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Summit is looking at. And of course, they have several objectives. And one of them, of course, we've talked about, that is to reduce poverty, but also there is enhancing food security and also fostering investment in agriculture, and that is where we are. That's what we've been talking about. And the other one, most important, probably climate resilience. It looks at recognizing the impact of climate change on agriculture, and it aims to support climate resilient agriculture practices to ensure sustainable development. That is very, very interesting. However, let's look at the policy now. We've got institutions like, coffee, for example. They have got a policy in place.
Yeah.
Sugarcane also, and cotton, etc. Does the rice sector in the country have a policy at the moment?
Yeah, actually, of all the cereals, it's rice that has a national rice development strategy, which falls in the government policy. The strategy spells out what investments could be put in the rice production and what areas we should put more investment. And in the current draft policy for the next 10 years, which matches with the Caadp which is being launched, is that more investment should be in the upland area. That is in terms of physical location. Then two, value addition. And now with the new varieties that we know are game changer varieties, value addition will take us not only from milling and consuming, but it's for milling and packing in a way that is suitable for health. And in that way, we will address food security, health, and also trade and business will boom in the rice sector. Rice has a long value chain, and it employs a lot of players along its value chain. And in that way, it becomes a crop that easily picks people out of poverty. And it's the main crop that is used for settlement of people in refugees. When there are insurgencies, the first thing that is shared is rice, because it's stored in a form that does not easily decompose. And now if we make it to be nutrient dense, then the malnourished children in those refugee camps probably will come from Uganda going to other countries. So we have to plan and take our product in the next 4 or 5 years in a way that make us sell the product in a good way.
Doctor, you've talked about something, of course, rice being produced in Uganda, and like most families, in most households, you'll find rice there. However, you've talked about something to do with health, and one thing that we have been told is about, when people eat a lot of rice, that's carbohydrates, and they tend to have certain ailments. It is a cause for, raising sugar levels in a person's body. Now let's go back to your varieties. Do you have this in mind, the health component, when we eat this rice that you have, come up with, you have developed? Should I be very comfortable that I'm not going to have these, health issues?
Oh, we are lucky that we have learned a lot from the Far East challenges of feeding or relying on rice alone and taking too much rice. And based on that, every rice we develop, we are conscious of what is in them. Number one, when you take a lot of rice, there is rice that is easily digested, and they easily raise the sugar level. And that one, they call it high glycemic index. They easily dissolve in the blood, and if you have a problem. So now, among the varieties released in 2021, there's one that is in that category of low glycemic. So it's us now to say if you are over 60 or if you have those compromising conditions, take this rice and take this amount. So from the research perspective, we are taking that into consideration. And that's why right now we have stepped into the one which is nutrient dense. But the one which has too much of quick dissolving sugars, we have addressed that.
Okay.
Yeah, only that they are slow digesting. When you take it, you'll just be taking water, but you won't release it so fast in the blood.
Because, Doctor, I asked you that question. We are looking at our population in the country, in Uganda. I think more than 60%
Yeah.
are young men and women.
Yes.
And these are the people who are consuming this rice that we are producing. So if, for example, they are healthy, then definitely what even Caadp is looking at, you know, having a vibrant young generation that will help, you know, put Africa to the next level as far as, you know, food security is concerned. So if they are healthy, then they will play a vital role in as far as development of their country is concerned, but also the region, East African region, and also Africa as a whole.
Maybe to add to that, we have already taken the research to a level where we know the proportion of black rice that can be added to white rice for you to get what you require for the body.
Okay.
So now when you it's like now buying food with something with condiments to add to. It's just around 10, 20 to 30% adding to the white rice. It will be colored rice, very nice, but it has all the nutrients in it.
Thank you. That's I think
so that will be now the next formulation we are coming with.
That is very encouraging because even the viewer out there should actually take note of that because at least there you give us, you know, you encourage us.
Yeah.
When we eat it, we know that we shall be healthy, and a healthy body definitely can do a lot of things. And we're looking at African development and, of course, food security on the continent. But also, probably you can answer this. If, for example, rice farmers are receiving any financial, you know, help or, you know, partnerships like in the USA or, you know, the United Kingdom, they partner, rice farmers partner with the World Bank. How are we doing it here?
We are not yet doing it so well because we currently, with the support from African Development Bank and especially African Development Bank, we have rice production area developed and machinery is put in place, but something is hanging. Reaching the farmer with the right advice and the right input is still lacking. And normally when a project ends, you find farmers are losing direction. So you have pointed a key thing that we need to address in this coming few years. My opinion is that these farmers can be contracted. Seed growers are doing it well. They contract those who have trained to be seed growers, and they are happy. But now those who grow it, there are moments when they don't have good support, and they're not as word of market. I actually have an experience in that. Soybean has a better marketing strategy than rice.
Okay.
All soybean farmers in the north, they know the price of soybean before they pick it from the garden. But a rice farmer depends on a middleman who will dictate on what the price is, and that person takes to the mill. And frequently they are cheated.
The middleman actually,
There's
and that is what the president has been saying, to avoid the middleman.
Now soybean has perfected, and that's why the oil crops production is skyrocketing. They actually don't make a lot of money, but they have confidence in the pricing. But rice, they would have made much more money, but when you are cheated today, then you find your neighbor, his has bought at another price because he was cheated. That pattern is still weak. So coming to what you have just mentioned, we need to invest in that area of marketing, a steward market, and predetermined price, because we know the milling percentage, we know the yield. If drought has affected it a bit, we even know. So we can come in and make a rice farmer comfortable. Secondly, in terms of soil fertility, upland rice rotation is a way to go. They are doing it in the north. They know what to grow in first season, what to grow in the second season, but we are not helping them in the marketing. And at worst, those who are buying it are even adulterating. After buying, they mix. So you will not hear any of the varieties I've mentioned in the market somewhere. Little credit to us. Why? Because they know the high-value varieties that they have bought from a particular place, but they mix with a low value somewhere and set the price. So that's also another area we need to invest in. Okay,
Doctor, thank you so much. But now I'd like to divert a little bit, because your portfolio, it shows that you're a program leader, maize and rice research. We've talked about rice because you're a rice breeder yourself. Yes. But let's look at the component of maize, just a little bit.
Yes.
Maize, of course, is consumed so much, not only in Uganda, but I think on the African continent. And we're looking at Caadp, this Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program summit that's taking place here in Uganda. We are looking at, especially food security, so that people don't go hungry, people are able to produce enough to eat, but also to sell, make some money, and as a result fight poverty. And maize is one of those crops that has been grown extensively.
Yeah.
It has been sold extensively on the African continent. Do we have new maize varieties that at NACRI you might have come up with that one can actually help in fighting, in being resilient when it comes to,
Stresses.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have, maize is a commodity that NARO is proud of having invested in developing its technology successfully. So it's a model commodity. In terms of varieties developed, in terms of seed industry, 70% of maize is what is marketed. The rest are not well marketed in terms of seed. So we have drought-tolerant varieties, a number of them. But the key one right now is Bazoka, which is high yielding, even when drought, then also longer 10 age, that is an hybrid. But more important, in 2021, 2022, we released variety which is high in vitamin A, provitamin A, 2 varieties. And these 2 varieties are at the stage of promotion. And we know that a lot of maize is consumed. If we improve its nutrient content and it is nutrient dense the way it is, then we are going to support consumers. Now, there are moments when we produce more maize, and it finds its way to our neighbors. To us, that is our pride. We are also happy that there's purchasing power in the neighboring countries. But if some fraction would also be held and we do value addition to it in a planned way, and the most important one is to brand it according to variety. Take it, for example, if you go to Eastern Uganda, you go to, at the beginning of the season, if you go to Kapchorwa, you find maize from that area being marketed at a higher price. They just tell you this is from Kapchorwa. Even now they tell you this from Mbale.
Yes.
You know why? It's because the maize there is grown under low temperature. Any cereal, when you grow it under low temperature, there's more protein. And when there's more protein, it's that protein that decomposes to be brown, to be aromatic. So it has a higher purchasing power. So we are seeing that if we invest in having branded maize, we say if it's Kapchorwa, let nobody mix it. Let it be this variety, and it goes at this price. And a person like you, I'm sure, will buy at a higher price.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes.
I'm here with Dr. Jimmy Lamo, who is the program leader, Maize and Rice Research at the National Crops Resources Research Institute, that is NACRI. We'll now take a very short break, but we'll be coming back, and the doctor will give us his parting shots, and then we shall continue with the programming here on UBC TV. Let's take that break.
Thank you.
win. This year, Plascon Paint and Win. The cook round. Chicho, buy paint worth 100K. Get a scratch card. SMS the code to 7197. Stand a chance to win instant airtime, 1 million shillings bully day there, or a share of a 3 million shillings jackpot each week. What do you want the brand new Boda Bodas, tuk-tuks, and so much more? Catch the Paint and Win action every Monday on Bukede One, NBS, and Sanyuka TV. Plascon, color your world.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You are now entered a draw to win school fees.
Welcome back from that break, and this is UBC TV, and we are looking at the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program Summit that is currently going on at Munyonyo Commonwealth Resort Hotel, and we're looking at what strategies the African continent can take in as far as food security is concerned in the region. And we understand some delegates have already arrived, but some are actually arriving right now at Entebbe International Airport. And on standby is our reporter, Wadulo Mark Arnold, to give us the updates from the airport. Mark.
Well, thank you very much, the team in studio. We appreciate the work that you're doing. And I'm coming to you live from the commercial wing of Entebbe International Airport. To be specific, I am coming to you live from the VIP lounge, where a number of the delegates that have been coming in for the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program are passing through. Now, today has not really been a busy day, considering the fact that most of the delegates and those that came earlier, the forerunners, are already at the summit in Munyonyo. However, we are expecting a few important delegates, especially the heads of state, from 2 p.m. tonight. And we shall also be having the African Union chairman, His Excellency Faki, coming in through this terminal at 5 p.m. this evening. That is an update we shall also be giving you. But to take you a little bit more from what this conference is contextualizing, agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of Africa. However, we still struggle to meet the benchmarks that the summit, set in the Maputo Declaration. For example, one of the key declarations was that every African country was supposed to reach the target allocation of 10% of their national budget to agriculture. So the trend, speaking to some of the delegates here, is that in 2003, when the declaration was made, most of the African countries went on board. And there was a trend of increased budget allocation towards agriculture. However, the trend changed, especially after COVID-19, where countries started to address more pressing challenges, of course compromising budgets of agriculture and other aspects. And Uganda being one of those countries, we see that our allocation to agriculture has been about 3 to 4% to agriculture. Now, this puts us in a position whereby we're faced with challenges. For example, climate change. The seasons are no longer as stable as they used to be. We're having longer droughts, we're having longer rainy periods, or should I say they're more, I can say they are more, the word is, they're unpredictable. Yes, so on being unpredictable, we cannot continue to thrive or say we can develop agriculture if we have an unpredictable weather pattern. So climate change has to be addressed. So how are countries addressing climate change? And I'm sure these are some of the conversations you're hearing at the summit in Munyonyo. Speaking to some of the delegates that passed through here, they say that one, despite the fact that issues like COVID-19 came through, there was a need for political willingness to allocate a significant proportion, say 10%, to agriculture. We spoke to some of the delegates also from Somalia. We spoke to delegates from Ethiopia. Now, I would like to point out Ethiopia specifically. Ethiopia is among those countries in Africa that has, hit the target to surpass the 10% allocation, national budget allocation. And when I spoke to the Minister of Agriculture of Ethiopia, his remarks were it had to be a deliberate action because it's not something you can compromise. Food security can amount to, food insecurity can equate to insecurity at that, okay? So food security moves along with appropriate agricultural mechanisms and programs. And if this is not being taken serious, then we can foresee challenges. Either one, you're going to import a lot of the food that you consume in your country, or two, you're going to see more hunger, or you're also going to see prices of food going up. But looking at the vision of the Africa we want, 2063, personally, I think it shouldn't even be the Africa we want. It should be the Africa we need, because you might want chips and chicken, but your body needs the greens, okay? So there's a difference between what you want and what you need. But I think it's already too late for us to, change that mission statement. Let's keep it at the Africa we want. So what is the Africa we want in terms of agriculture? We want to see an Africa that is managing its agricultural programs sustainably. We want to see an Africa. We are the food basket of the world. We export most of our food. We consume most of the food we plant. That means we are highly subsistence. And Uganda, this is a song that the President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has been singing often. He's been saying that, hey, please, we need to drive away from subsistence farming. Why would you consume the food that you plant? Why don't you grow to the level whereby you sell the food that you are planting? Sell the bulk and then consume a little. So all in all, the airport here hasn't been busy today. We are expecting the heads of state coming in through the VVIP airport, where my colleagues Onyango and Jethro are. Here we're expecting the African Union chairman, His Excellency Faki, and that is the update we are having here at the VIP terminal of the commercial wing of Entebbe International Airport. Back to you in studio, Kijana Ngoma Edward.
Thank you so much, Mark Wadulo, Mark Arnold, of course, Wadulo reporting live there from Entebbe International Airport, and of course they await arrival of other dignitaries, including some heads of state that will be coming to be part of this very important comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program summit that Uganda is proud to be hosting. And it started today, the 9th of January, and it will end on the 11th. And we do expect many more dignitaries to be arriving, as you've just heard from Dulo Mark Arnold. And in the studio, of course, I'm with none other than Dr. Jimmy Lamo, who is the program leader, Maize and Rice Research at the National Crops Resources Research Institute, NACRI. But also, we've got an update. Remember that a few minutes after midday today, we had the bad news of the passing away of the former Caadp North legislator, and that is Mohamed Segirinya, and he passed away at Rubaga Hospital. And we do understand that there will be a special sitting tomorrow, that is Friday at 10 a.m. And that will be, of course, sitting at Parliament, and the body will be received by the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, at 9 a.m. tomorrow. That is the update that we're just getting about, the demise of the late Caadp North legislator, that is Mohamed Segirinya. And of course, we shall be giving you all the updates and events that will be unfolding as far as the late Segirinya's burial arrangements are concerned, but also, importantly, this very important summit, that is the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Summit that Uganda is hosting. Back to you, Doctor. Of course, now we've already heard about the rice varieties that you're having. Also, you've talked about maize. Now, your parting shots.
Thank you for giving me opportunity to present NARO's contribution to research and its relevance to the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. As an institution and as a program, we are addressing constraints that keep emerging. And key ones that already are low-hanging and we have already done contribution in is that in the last 6 years, Uganda got serious fall armyworm problem, which affected maize and other cereals. And we invested research with support from government and contained, and now we have capacity to address fall armyworm should it occur again. A second, food security aspect of maize, we have brought in nutritive maize which has vitamin A in its background. That is a big one, and we had been working on it for the last 6-7 years. Then rice, of course, the perennial rice and the nutrient-dense black rice are game-changer technologies. We are seeing ourselves ready to take our producers and those who are investing in the cereal crop as a commodity in a way that benefits the country and makes the economy grow, and we have a healthy population. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aluma, and of course, we really do appreciate having given your time to come and be with us here to, discuss rice and maize. In as far as fighting, food insecurity in the country is concerned. And viewer, that has been Dr. Jimmy Lamo, the program leader, Maize and Rice Research at the National Crops Resources Research Institute, and that is NACRI. And we do appreciate you being there with us. But also remember that this summit was officially opened by the Prime Minister of Uganda, and that is Right Honourable Robina Nabanja. And I'm going to leave you with some of the things that she talked about at the opening of that, of this very special summit. And she of course said that she would like to see the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program to, first of all, the Council of Ministers of Agriculture from the African Union member states, of course, they have already convened the Commonwealth Resort Hotel in Mnyonyo that the whole process, which has been under the supervision of them as Ministers of Agriculture, has now come to an end, with specialized technical committee set to present the strategy and, of course, action plan, as well as the draft declaration to the Assembly of Heads of State and Government. And let me leave you with the Prime Minister with those remarks as she opened this very, very important summit. And from me, of course, I thank you so much for having been with me from the time we started this interview. My colleagues will be coming in later because there's a lot that is happening. We understand there is a press conference that's going to be taking place shortly at Mnyonyo. That one will also be given to you live here on UBC TV. But thank you so much for being a part of this interview. I'm Rukidi Edward Kijanongoma, wishing you a blessed evening, but here is the Prime Minister.
Excellency Ambassador Josepha Sako, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Development at the African Union Commission, and your team, the Honorable Ministers of Agriculture from the African Union member states, representatives of the African Union institutions, representatives of the regional economic communities, development partners, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the people and the government of the Republic of Uganda, allow me to register warm and fraternal greetings to you all and say welcome to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the same spirit, allow me to extend a warm welcome to all of you to this ministerial session of the African Union Extraordinary Assembly on the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, during which member states will consider and adopt the post-Malabo Caadp agenda, henceforth to be known as the Kampala Caadp agenda. I have been briefed that over the past 1.5 years, the African Union Commission has led the process of drafting a comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program strategy and action plan 2026-2036 and the Kampala Declaration, and that the process has been widely consultative. Ladies and gentlemen, on its part, Uganda, as the chair of the African Union Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, has provided strategic oversight at the political level. The whole process, which has been under the supervision of you, the Ministers of Agriculture, has now come to an end, with the Specialized Technical Committee set to present the strategy and the action plan, as well as the draft declaration to the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government. I congratulate you upon this milestone. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, with the summit set to consider and adopt the strategy and action for the period up to 2035, I wish to remind you that this will be the third in a series of 10-year Caadp strategies, and that third biennial review of implementation of the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program carried out in 2023 noted that we as African countries needed to do better than we have been doing in order to achieve the targets that we set for ourselves some 20 years back, that is in the year 2003. Therefore, I want to urge you as sector ministers across the continent to continue to guide us on where we need to readjust in order for us to meet our own targets. You will note that Caadp is one of the strategies towards the realization of the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Therefore, let us work deliberately to get what we want as a continent. As a continent's agriculture sector ministers, I urge you to deliberately work to reduce Africa's over-reliance on food imports from outside the continent. We must position the continent in such a manner that our agricultural sector is resilient to climate change as well as other shocks and is adaptive to advances in technology. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Development Bank report indicates that more than 60% of the Africa's working population is engaged in agriculture. Number two, that the soil across most of the continent is rich and fertile. Number three, that Africa has 65% of the world's remaining uncultivated arable land, and that Africa can or has abundant fresh water with enough rainfall and a good number of days of sunshine each year. Yet, in 2021, Africa's food imports were about $100 billion, fueled mainly by the population growth. What a shame that a continent that was gifted by God with such a proportion of the world's arable land and fertile land is experiencing such a trend in food imports. This session of this summit should come up with concrete proposals on how Africa can come out of such an undesirable situation. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for us to guarantee our future as Africans, we must feed ourselves. The process of drafting and adopting the strategy and action plan is now coming to an end. I urge you to now focus your energies on implementation. And this will be a combined effort from national to regional and continental levels. Let us work together in a complementary way to deliver the Africa we want. Let me close my remarks by putting forward a few areas of my concern. One, there is need for policy reviews for food security and nutrition. Number two, investing in research for improved seeds and livestock. Number three, we need to consider disease control. Number four, investment in irrigation and mechanization is a must to mitigate climate change and enhanced production. Number four, in order to align the African population, we need to mobilize them for production, productivity, and profitability. As Africa, that's number six, we must remain focused to the fact that regional trade has the potential to back regional and national development, and that it can lead to greater economic and political cooperation. Avoid trade barriers. We need each other for development. We must take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is about 1.5 billion people, COMESA, ECOWAS, and the East African Community, and stop exporting raw materials and add value to our agricultural products, such as coffee, cocoa, tea, milk, to mention but a few. Why not export finished and blended products from Africa? Why not? With these remarks, it is now my singular duty and honor to declare this ministerial session of the African Union Extraordinary Assembly of Heads of State and Government on the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program officially open for God and my country.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees.
A very good afternoon to you. And of course, we are into the Caadp Summit, Caadp Kampala Summit 2025. Now, with Africa's 60% arable land and its soil capabilities and capacities and good climate, Africa's agriculture activities, if well harnessed, they can yield productivity into our Ugandan economy and also reach out to around the continent. And of course, as the goal for Caadp to eradicate hunger and provide food security, nutrition security as a shared goal for these 44 member states. My name is Patricia Lokoma Mpango, and I'll be taking you through the rest of the Caadp session. We do have a different correspondent at Entebbe, commercial area, and then also we do have another correspondent, that is Paul Sonko at Munyonyo, and we will be having a couple of updates in and out of the session. Now, just a little bit about Caadp. We all know by now that it's the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program, what is Caadp in particular? It is Africa's policy framework for agricultural transformation, and that is geared towards wealth creation, food security, nutrition security, and economic growth. Now, it is an agricultural program for the Africa Development Organization, that is the Africa Union, African Union. And they actually came up with this idea to be able to better the agricultural sector on the continent. We all know that as African, what we can leverage on is our soils, the good soil that we have, the good climate that we have, far different from other continents. So with the arable, 60% arable land, this brings us together. This joins the 44 member states together to come to an agreement to develop Africa in our continent. Now, still on the same issue, yes, as Caadp, it came as a flagship framework policy to help and leverage on some of the solutions that the agriculture sector needs. And of course, what may work in Uganda may not work in the other African countries, but what we can do is utilize every possible resource to better the agriculture sector. We do have a lot of things, a lot of resources where we can pick from to better the agriculture sector. But as we look into the declarations, we have the Malabo and then we have the Maputo. And of course, the very first one was Maputo. And Maputo coming up with all these beautiful ideas, they more centered on bringing the agricultural sector as the center of each and every economy. And after 10 years span, that is like a decade, they chose to kind of revise and recommit themselves to a new declaration, which was Malabo. And Malabo was more centered on the youth, as well as they looked at what exactly was a gap in the Maputo declaration. So the discussion was not to eliminate completely Maputo, but to elevate some of the drivers in Maputo to be able to be compatible for the Malabo. And Malabo, capacity building, youth-based opportunities to be able to venture into the agricultural sector without bias. So basically, this is what we should be expecting in the conference that is due in just a few minutes. We will also be having a trade fair, but that will come a little bit later. But now we are heading to Munyonyo to see what's happening there and how the conference is going on, the discussions, the member states, and how things are working at Munyonyo Resort Hotel.
in ensuring that our process is not only comprehensive, but also feasible and impactful. By pooling our resources and knowledge, we have developed a robust and actionable framework to guide Africa's agricultural system, agri-food system transformation in the years ahead. Under the leadership of His Honorable Frank, Uganda's Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fishery, and Chair of the STC on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, the Caadp Strategy and Action Plan, and the draft Kampala Declaration Kampala Caadp Declaration were endorsed on October 25, 2024, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The two documents were then circulated by the Office of the Secretary to the Commission to all the member states in all 6 Union working countries. Overall, the 10-year Caadp strategy and action plan aims to boost food production, expand value addition, boost intra-African trade, create millions of jobs for our youth and women, build inclusive agri-food value chain, and build resilient and sustainable agri-food system that will withstand shocks and stressors now and in the future. Furthermore, we are dedicated to strengthening governance and evidence-based decision-making and enhancing accountability among all stakeholders. Inclusivity is a fundamental aspect of our approach. We will ensure that women and youth and marginalized groups have access to resources, thereby facilitating their equitable participation in the agri-food sector. The outcome of the summit will be the adoption of the draft Caadp Strategy and Action Plan 2026-2035 and the draft Kampala Caadp Declaration. The summit will make landmark decisions that will shape Africa's agri-food system transformation for the next decade. In conclusion, this summit and the Kampala Declaration that will emanate from represent a critical turning point of our collective effort to transform Africa's agricultural system. It is a testament of our shared commitment to food sovereignty and a prosperous food security in Africa. As we move forward, I am filled with optimism that through our collective effort, we will realize the ambitious goal we have set for the next decade. I invite all the participants to actively engage in the discussion, share their insights, and contribute to the success of this summit. Together, we can ensure that the outcome will have a lasting and a positive impact on our continent, because we all know that our statistics, when the report comes, we are always a continent of food insecure. Let's change the narrative. The time is now. Let's feed Africa. Let all the cities in Africa have access to a nutritious food and affordable food. I am inviting all the participants to actively engage in the discussion, share their insights, and contribute to the success of this summit. Finally, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the member states of the African Union Commission and the regional economic community for their continued support and collaboration throughout this process. It has truly been an incredible journey, and I am deeply appreciative of the trust placed in me to lead the Caadp for 2 consecutive terms, for 8 years. I am at the end of my term, and I thank all partners, everybody that brought their support during my 8 years tenure in the African Union as a commissioner of the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment. Our unwavering commitment to advancing Africa's agri-food system is inspiring, and it is through our collective effort that we will achieve the transformative change we see. I wish you all a happy new year, filled with health, happiness, and success. I thank you for your kind attention. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção. Merci beaucoup pour votre attention. Muchas gracias pela sua atenção. Shukran, asante sana.
Well, that was Her Excellency Ambassador Josepha Sako. And of course, she is the Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment. As we all know, that the African Union has laid the development of a new 10-year Caadp strategy and action plan, and that will be 2026 to 2035. Now, the plan's vision is to build resilient and sustainable agri-food systems for healthy and prosperous Africa, in line with the aspirations of Agenda 2063. As we heard from her, Josepha Sako, she's very passionate about food security. And if we read the statistics, we see a hunger is hitting Africa very hard. And some of the issues that we can attribute to is due to the climate change. And these are one of the issues that are being handled at Munyonyo in the conference, the Caadp Kampala Conference 2025. And we know that as the discussions go forward, as member states keep recommitting themselves to another tenure of resolutions to better agriculture in the African continent, we do know that agriculture will become a priority for all member states. And of course, we also see that, we witness that every financial year, our very own budget usually gives a very beautiful percentage to the agricultural sector. And probably what the question would be the implementation, how these funds are handled. We see a lot of programs, government programs, that have come in to support the agricultural sector, to tap onto the youth, to help them, grow in the area of self-employment, and of course through agriculture. We've seen different models being introduced by government to see to it that every Ugandan can participate in our very own agricultural sector. And as we grow in the agricultural sector, the economy grows, the inputs grow, we become more productive, and at the end of the day, we better the GDP. One thing I realized with a 23% GDP on the continent, Uganda also has a shared part of that. But how far? How far have we gone? We will be engaging in an interview with an expert, an economic expert, who will be coming in here to elaborate more on the state of agriculture in the country, but also to talk about the Maputo-Malabo declarations, how they come in, how they correspond with each other, and the expectations from this conference. The conference started today, January 9th, and we hope it is going to end on 11th January. A lot of issues will be looked at. One thing I've noticed, it's just not for the Caadp participation, but also as Uganda, there are certain pillars that we can identify with the Caadp pillars. Extending the area under sustainable land management, we have seen government work day in, day out to be able to capture the deserted land, the dry lands, to make them more productive. And this is one of the pillars of Caadp formulation. And we know that when two people have shared values, usually a conclusion will yield results to that relationship. So I'm pretty much sure that these 44 member states, as they come together on a round table, bring up discussions, bring up ideas, we know that something will change in our agricultural sector, but more so, also we will still witness change in the economy at large, and better our GDP performance, internationally and on the continent. So what we do expect in the coming few minutes is a detailed discussion on the Malabo Declaration. Today, there's a recommitment. Of course, they'll go back and review what has been done so far on the Maputo and Malabo declarations. What resolutions have been done or achieved on these two specific declarations, and what's the way forward. So usually recommitting themselves, first they analyze the situation and then see the gaps that are meant to be filled for these specific declarations. And the resolution definitely will come through. We've seen Honorable Robina Nabanja, our Prime Minister, give a very insightful speech there. And of course, at the end of her remarks, she looked at some of the issues that are touching on her side. And she talked about policy reviews on food security. And of course, that she can speak from her own point of view, and that is Uganda. Uganda is Honorable Prime Minister's point of view, that food security, we are not yet there. Yeah, we have not hit the digits in terms of food security. And some of the things that she identified is we need to have more research into seedlings, how we get our seedlings, and how farmers are cooperating, with advocates, with agricultural advocates, to see that we yield results, to see that we add value onto our productivity. And then she talked about disease control. I think that is one of the issues that we've had in this country in the area of agriculture. Disease control has become an issue. Why? Because we do have a lot of substandard insecticides or treatment to disease for specific crops, for specific farming yields. And that is something that also she talked about that needs to be addressed. If disease or pest control is handled in the agricultural sector, then we will have some good yields, good crops on the market. And whenever you have good crops, then you can think of export. And for export, then the value chain will come into play and things will begin to work out. And that was one of the speeches that we had before I came on air earlier. And of course, also Her Excellency Sako also emphasized on the yearning, how can I put it? She's very passionate about food security, and we definitely know that as time goes on, because now it's a 10-year standing as the head of research and rural development, but later on we will have more engagements onto this production. Right now, we want to go to Honorable Frank to Maize's speech and hear what he had to add on to the Caadp summit. Let's hear more.
Robina Nabanja, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, Excellency Ambassador Joseph Sako, the African Union Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Development, and the AU team, Your Excellencies, heads of delegations, colleague ministers from the African Union member states, Excellencies and Ambassadors and High Commissioners, representatives of the African Union institutions, representatives of regional economic communities, our development partners, the media, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year 2025. Excellencies, 2025 will be a defining year for the future of the Africa's agricultural sector, and I'm glad that we have started the year by holding a very high-level discussions on the agricultural sector. I also wish to welcome you to the Republic of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, a country known for its unique features and attributes, starting with very hospitable people, unique flora and fauna, unique geographical features, and a fantastic weather. Once again, a very warm welcome to you all. Colleague ministers, you will recall that slightly over 20 years ago, that is in 2003, our heads of state and government adopted the comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, abbreviated as Caadp, and that is the one of the strategies towards the realization of the Africa's Agenda 2063. As of today, we remain with about 38 years to end the Africa's Agenda 2063, implying that if we are to meet the targets set therein, we should be in full implementation mode now. With the second Caadp strategy and action plan, or the Malabo Declaration coming close to the end, in 2023, when I was elected the chairperson of the African Union Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, my major task was to lead the process of drafting the successor strategy and action plan or agenda. I want to thank you very much for entrusting me with that noble responsibility and report to you that we are now at the penultimate stage of that assignment, as we are set to have the Caadp Strategy and Action Plan 2026-35 and the Caadp Declaration considered and adopted by the Assembly by the end of this summit. Right Honorable Prime Minister, the African Union Commissioner, and colleague ministers, allow me to single out the following categories and individuals for special mention, given their selfless contribution and support to the process of developing the Caadp Agenda 2026-35. Number one, I am very grateful to the Bureau of the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, which I serve and chair. This bureau is composed of the first vice chair is the Republic of Cameroon. The second vice chair is the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. The third vice chair is the Republic of Namibia. And the rapporteur is the Republic of Egypt. Give them a round of applause. I wish to thank Ambassador Josepha Sako, Her Excellency, the African Union Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Development for your steadfast stewardship and leadership of the process with your very efficient team at the African Union Commission. I must add that the process of developing the Kampala Caadp Agenda 2026-35 was widely consultative, involving the public sector, parliamentarians, farmers' organizations, private sector, civil society, academia, and research, and the media, among others. I want to appreciate Dr. Godfrey Bahigwa, the Director for Agriculture at the African Union Commission, for your technical leadership of the process. And I want to appreciate the technical working groups, the conveners of the different working groups, and the technical drafting team that put together all the ideas collected during the consultation process to come up with the simple document that will be presented to heads of state and government during the extraordinary assembly. The regional economic communities under the coordination of the African Union, I thank you. The various stakeholders that participated in one way or another during the consultation process, either by way of submitting memoranda, by financial supporting the process, or in any other way. And my technical team at the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, led by the Permanent Secretary, Major General David Kasura Chomkama, for the technical backup. I thank them. And I thank you all for your invaluable contributions. You made this possible, and you made Africa proud. Thrusting Caadp to the future. Honorable colleague ministers, the planning phase of the Kampala Caadp agenda ends during this summit. We must therefore move into implementation and execution mode. We will be having a detailed discussion on the strategy and action plan and the Kampala Declaration after this opening session, and I urge you to be as candid as possible. You will recall that the document that I will be presenting to you during that session is your document, having adopted it at the ministerial session of the STC in October 2024 in Addis Ababa. It is by focusing on execution that we can make a meaningful impact on our continent and our people. We must move not with the times, but ahead of the times. This calls for advances in technological research and practices, building agricultural systems that are resilient to climate change and other shocks, agro-industrialization and the like. In this context, I wish to recall that the fourth session of the STC in 2021 agreed to establish 5 regional animal resources seed centers of excellence. Uganda was privileged to host one of the centers under the National Animal Genetic Resources Center and Data Bank, NAGRIC and DB. However, to operationalize the centers, participating countries are required to conclude memoranda of understanding, MOUs. We need to expedite this process in those regions where this remains outstanding, such as the Eastern African region. I look forward to having discussions with the concerned ministers on this subject, including at the sidelines of this summit, with a view to actualizing our decision that we made about 5 years ago. As I close my remarks, I invite you to spare time and visit the exhibition outside this convention center so that we can learn from each other with respect to advances in agricultural research and technologies. I invite you to spare time during the course of this summit to visit different tourist sites and activities that Uganda has to offer. And I'm urging you to prepare for and drive full-scale implementation of the Kampala Caadp agenda at national, regional, and continental levels. I thank you for listening to me. Asante sana, merci. God bless you.
Well, welcome back from that session. And of course, that was none other than Honorable Frank Twebaze, and he is the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda. He's also the chair of the African Union Special Technical Committee on Agriculture. And as you heard, one of the takeaways from his statement was the implementation and execution area. I think that is where most of us, African countries, are lagging behind. And if we focus on execution, as he said, that of course impact will be realized. And of course putting some systems like the technology systems, research systems in place, we are prone to better the agricultural sector. One thing I wanted to look at that is basically common in all the African states is when they come to the table of recommitting themselves, of resoluting, what are some of the principles that they would look at, some of the principles that we expect, the values that bring together Caadp as a joint commission, and of course at everyone's voice, in everyone's voice. We've heard eradicating hunger in Africa, eradicating hunger in Africa. But when some of the experts come into studio, we would want to know how far we've gone in that area of eradicating hunger in Africa. And of course, also some other principles, some of the other principles that will be tabled on the table of recommitment is boosting the intra-Africa trade. Now that we have 44 member states, how can we relate in the area of intra-Africa trade? If I'm having better rice in Uganda, how can I cross over to the next African country just within the continent to be able to leverage on what we are all working towards? And of course, enhancing resilience. Resilience is a very key issue for any developing economy, and specifically for Africa, being the fact that the agricultural sector is basically the backbone of each and every African country in this African continent. Some of the pictures that we are showing you are some of the statements that were earlier on given by different dignitaries. The previous one was Honorable Frank Twebaze, and then the one before him was Her Excellency Sako. She heads the AU rural development section there. And then initially, before I came on air, we had the Prime Minister, Her Excellency, or Honorable Robina Nabanja. Again, we will be bringing different engagements as they unfold. And what we are bringing you right now are some of the discussions that were earlier on communicated on in this conference. So again, still about the recommitment issue there, we will expect a reduction in poverty. And how are we going, because we've tried all avenues to eradicate poverty in our African continent, but now we know that having agriculture as the backbone, then we do have a driver that can actually, support this cause to eradicate poverty on the African continent. And of course, hunger, nutrition are some of the key issues that are being drawn on the table. We know that this meeting will yield a new recommitment, like Frank Twebaze said, that right now we want to end the meeting, the talking. Right now we want to see execution and implementation, and that is what we will foresee in the coming days. As 44 member states, the joining together is strengthening, learning from each other. What can we learn from any of these 44 states as Uganda, as the hosts? What can we pick from these statements? What can we pick from these discussions? These are some of the priority issues that we should look into. And we know that after every review, there is a resolution. And as we all geared towards one goal, bettering agriculture, and seeing to it that agriculture is the center of the economy, then all the other sectors will definitely fall into play as we do a lot of activities, as we come up with frameworks, reforms to better this particular sector. One thing I understood is that all the 44 member states are required to allocate a 10% and above of their national budget to the agriculture sector. But are we adhering to this? Are all the African countries doing this? Because 10% is quite something that would boost some of the activities, right from cultivation, production, the food, the value chain. If we definitely put the 10% and have the implementers, allow the farmers access this particular funds, then we are due to have a better agricultural sector in Uganda. So we are waiting on to see what's happening at Munyonyo, but as we wait, we will keep on generating different statements from different speakers as they gave their statements in the conference. Okay, let us have another speech from earlier dialogues or earlier discussions. We're going to be having another statement from another speaker. Yes.
To operationalize the centers.
Good morning. Right Honorable Robina Nabanja, Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Frank Twebaze, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda and Chair of the AU Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, Your Excellency Ambassador Joseph Sako, Commissioner Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the AU Commission, Honorable Ministers of the Member States, Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. First of all, I thank the government of Uganda for their warm welcome and hospitality. It is an honor and a privilege to stand before you today at this extraordinary summit of the African Union, where we gather under the vital theme Sustainable and Resilient Agro-Food Systems for Healthy and Prosperous Africa. This gathering is not just a meeting of minds, it is a convergence of our shared aspirations, collective challenges, and unwavering commitment of the future of agriculture and food security on our continent. As we embark on the journey of the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program, Caadp, Strategy and Action Plan for 2026 to 2035, we must recognize the critical role that agriculture plays in the socio-economic fabric of Africa. Agriculture is not merely a sector, it is a backbone of our economies, the source of livelihoods for millions, and a key driver of sustainable development. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Caadp framework has been instrumental in guiding our efforts to enhance agricultural productivity, improve food security, and promote sustainable practices. However, as we look ahead, we must acknowledge the evolving challenges we face: climate change, population growth, urbanization, and the ongoing impacts of emerging global crises. Our vision for sustainable and resilient agro-food systems must be rooted in innovation, inclusivity, and sustainability. We envision a future where, number one, food and nutrition security is realized. Every African has access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. We must prioritize investments in agricultural research and development, infrastructure, and technology to enhance productivity and reduce post-harvest loss. Second, sustainable practices are the norm. We must embrace sustainable agricultural practices that protect our ecosystem, conserve biodiversity, and mitigate the impacts of climate change. This includes promoting agroecology, sustainable land management, and water conservation techniques. Third, resilience is built into our systems. Our agri-food systems must be resilient to shocks and stresses. This requires strengthening our supply chains, diversifying our production systems, and investing in social productive safety nets to support livelihoods of vulnerable populations. Fourth, youth and women are empowered. The future of agriculture lies in the hands of our youth and women. We must create opportunities for young people to engage in agriculture through education, access to finance and technology. Empowering women as a key player in agriculture will not only enhance productivity, but also drive economic growth and social equity. Last, regional cooperation is strengthened. We must foster collaboration among African nations to share knowledge, resources, and best practices. Regional integration will enhance our collective capacity to address food security challenges and promote trade in agricultural products. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as the champion of Caadp, Ethiopia has cascaded the Caadp into its national agricultural investment plans, which has focused on transforming the agricultural sector to achieve food and nutrition security, improve livelihoods, and foster economic growth. The plan has significantly increased agricultural budget allocation and has demonstrated its commitment to meet the 6% annual growth targets of Caadp in the last 5 years. Furthermore, Ethiopia has taken practical exemplary steps by implementing national initiatives towards achieving its Caadp targets. To mention some of the key initiatives spearheaded by our Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed: 1. The Climate Resilient National Wheat Initiative. The initiative enabled to increase the annual wheat production to 23 million tons, turning Ethiopia to wheat self-sufficiency after almost 50 years of net imports. Second, the groundbreaking Green Legacy Initiative, which has resulted in planting 40 billion multi-purpose seedlings in the last 6 years, which has increased the forest cover of the nation from 17.2 to 23.6%. This initiative is also instrumental in creating resilient landscapes and livelihoods. Third, the transformative Lema Trufat or Bounty of the Basket Initiative, which has improved the livestock sector production and productivity, focusing on poultry, dairy, fishery, apiary, and red meat. This initiative is designed to improve availability of proteins to enhance nutrition security. Lastly, all of our initiatives are aligned to our grand architecture of the Ethiopian agri-food system transformation roadmap. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we deliberate on the Caadp strategy and action plan, let us commit to actionable steps that will transfer our vision into reality. I urge each of you to prioritize investment, boost public financing, and attract private investment to drive agri-food system transformation. We have to enhance policy frameworks and develop and implement policies that support sustainable agricultural practices, promote food sovereignty, and protect the rights of smallholder farmers, and foster innovation and technology transfer, invest in research and development to harness the potential of technology in agriculture, from precision farming to digital platforms that connect farmers to the market. And finally, engage stakeholders, involve all stakeholders in the planning and implementation of agricultural policies, and ensure our strategies are inclusive and effective. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate the success of the Caadp for the last 2 decades, let us remember that this journey is a collective effort. It is through partnership, collaboration, and mutual respect among all stakeholders that we have achieved our vision of a food self-reliant, resilient, and prosperous Africa. Together we can build a healthy and prosperous Africa where food security is guaranteed, livelihoods are enhanced, and our agricultural systems are sustainable for generations to come. Moving forward, in the next decade of Kampala Declaration, let us continue to strengthen our alliances, share knowledge, and focus our efforts on ensuring that no one is left behind. Let us move forward with determination and purpose as we embark on this critical journey together. Thank you for your attention.
And of course, like I said before, that we will be generating different speeches as they unfold. And that was earlier on. He was none other than Honorable Dr. Germa Amente, Minister for Agriculture from the Federal of the Republic of Ethiopia. It's actually a democratic republic of Ethiopia. And of course, he talked about some of the facets that will push forward the agenda. And just like Honorable Frank Twebaze, he also emphasized implementation and execution. We should move from the level of just talking and coming up with these meetings, but also step up into the execution area. And of course, I agree with him, for the future of our agriculture will depend on some of the laws, the frameworks that we put in place. The dead frameworks will give us a dead agricultural sector, and the productive frameworks will help us to yield productivity and better the sector. And agriculture as an African continent, because we have shared values, that is the good soils, the good climate. A few weeks ago, I was speaking to a friend of mine who just left to Norway, and right now it's winter season, but she told me even the jelly products she took already dried, as in dried into snow. So yes, we admire the diaspora, but basically Africa, we have the best weather. So if the focus right now in the recommitment area, as they discuss in Munyonyo, is about, engaging into activities and policies that will help better the climate of Africa, then we are good to go. Yes. So that was Dr. Germa. He was really insightful. He gave us more into the area of, execution, how best we will execute some of these beautiful policies that we've put in place. And socio-economic development will be achieved only if the agricultural sector has got the transformation. And I think that is one of the facets of Malabo declaration, making sure that agriculture is transformed. We now take agriculture from the depths and then bring it at the center of economic planning. We do not put it outside economic planning. If it is budgeting, then it should actually also be given at 10% and more, yes, to be able to better. So some of these issues we can relate with. And the facets that will bring about the agricultural transformation are very key. And if we do not focus on these, then everything we are doing for nothing. But again, we are blessed to have a discussion like this at a time like this in our very own country, and having Uganda being the hosts of a deep discussion about the comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, discussing policy frameworks, discussing how to alleviate hunger and poverty. These issues, these pertinent issues, are discussed in our very own continent. And we know that as we have opportunities like this, we are geared to become major players in the global market. You can imagine if our green paper can cross over to other countries, the African countries in the continent, and we keep on having that, that replacement every time there's an order on that particular product, then we have created demand for that particular product. So these discussions are very opportunistic for us as a country, as an economy, and we definitely know that we will go places as we welcome, as we open doors for such opportunities in our country, Uganda. The free trade area is something that I've heard in many of the statements, and free trade area needs a couple of components to make it a completed free trade area. Some of the reforms in different countries would not allow the freedom of trade. Yes, we need, as a country, as an economy, to look into the issue of a free trade area. I also know that one thing that is at the heart of Uganda's economic advocates is entrepreneurship. Our education systems have provided job seekers, but now we see that our government, our economy is manually engaging in agriculture, promoting those who have made it in the agricultural sector, lifting them up there and giving them a highlight. And we know that now the students that are coming out from the university will have to think very hard on what they are tapping into. Or even those who are heading for university, career-based, they will have to rethink and, you know, what should I study to be able to be productive after the season of study? What comes next? You need to be skillful. So I'm pretty much sure that yielding to the entrepreneurship level will be determined by our education sector. If we can incorporate agriculture right from the grassroots, you know, have these young ones in primary, plant trees, do all these agricultural activities, and then also engage the families back home to allow them to show how, you know, a seed is planted, how we cultivate, how things happen. Instead of having a family gather watching a movie, you know, a foreign movie, then you can come up with a documentary that can teach the infants, the teens, the adults, how to farm and how to cultivate in our very own country. So there are a lot of facets that we need to bring together to be able to better the agricultural sector. So we're going to take a short break, but of course when we return we will try to look into the Agenda 2063. My name is Patricia Lukoma Mpango, and we are at the summit, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. Stay with us.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees.
Paint and win. This year, Plascon Paint and Win. The cuckoo roundy. Chicho, buy paint worth 100K. Get a scratch card. SMS the code to 7197. Stand a chance to win instant airtime, 1 million shillings bully day there, or a share of a 3 million shillings jackpot each week. What do you want the brand new podas, tuk-tuks, and so much more? Catch the Paint and Win action every Monday on Bukede One, NBS, and Sanyuka TV. Plascon, color your world.
There is myths that so many of you live by. If your eye is twitching, it means you're going to see someone you like. If it shines and rains at the same time, it means a leopard is giving birth. If your hand is itching, it means you're going to get money. If you see an owl, it means somebody's gonna die. if you hear of a disease outbreak, just know it is in a village district at the border next to some suspicious country. You will want to scratch that last myth. Because Mpox is in 19 districts and Kampala is among with dozens of cases, please stop going around checking anyone's hand. Mpox kills. Protect your loved ones.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees.
Paint and win. This year, Plascon Paint and Win. The cuckoo roundy. Chicho, buy paint worth 100K. Get a scratch card. SMS the code to 7197. Stand a chance to win instant airtime, 1 million shillings bully day there, or a share of a 3 million shillings jackpot each week. What do you want the brand new podas, tuk-tuks, and so much more? Catch the Paint and Win action every Monday on Bukede One, NBS, and Sanyuka TV. Plascon, color your world.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that short break. And of course, before we went on to the break, I told you that we would come back and discuss the Agenda 2063. But of course, Welcome back from that short break. Where we took off from, we had discussed a little bit about the Agenda 2063, and I wanted to delve a little more into that. But just to let you know, the Caadp program is an African Union program, and of course it is geared towards creating policy frameworks that will favor and yield towards wealth creation, food nutrition, food nutrition security, and at the same time give us economic growth as a continent. So the goal here is prosperity for all Africans in our African continent. And that brings us to the issue of what growth exactly are we looking at as we pinch onto this agricultural sector. It's an inclusive growth for each and every individual. Yeah, so I told you before we went for that short break that Agenda 2063 is at the heart of every member state of the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program Commission. So it is at the center stage. It is at the heart of every member state of these 44 countries that join together for the betterment of the agricultural sector around the continent. Now, I just wanted to take you through what transpired during the day, activities. First, we had a host of national anthems from all these 44 member states. And then second, there was a group photo, yeah, beautifully put there during that break. And then a consideration and adoption of the work program. This is where they look at what they have achieved since the last meeting, the last discussion, and what else should be put on a table. And then there was a plenary session where presentation of a 10-year Caadp strategy and action plan was presented. That is the 2026 and 2035 action plan presented at the plenary session. And then there was an official opening for the exhibition. I think that has not yet happened yet, but it will soon happen at 1400 to 1500. That is from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And then lastly, we will be having different closing remarks from different dignitaries. So that's the day one program. And of course, the one for tomorrow might quite be different from this day one program. So back to the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, Caadp. Caadp is a flagship program that brings together shared values in the agriculture sector. As earlier on, I told you that as an African continent, we do have some benefits that we share, some advantages that we share. We have good climate, we have good soils, and at the same time, we do have, you know, the free trade area that can bring us together. We shouldn't always run out to engage in exports. Just within the 44 member states, we can yield productivity amongst ourselves. So the flagship program, that is the Caadp, Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, is actually geared to bring resolutions and then make commitments. You know, that's why they revisit, they review, and then come back to the resettlement table. They come back to the table where they can recommit themselves to yet another tenure of developing the sector. In our very own Uganda, we see the government come up with many programs to help facilitate the youth to be able to better themselves. And we have a lot of testimonies from different youths who have left the job collar, the white collar job sector, and then tried and ventured into the agriculture sector. I know a couple of young men who are about 28 to 35 years, and they're busy, you know, cultivating coffee. They're already having yields. They're now networking, you know, with an international network to see that they better their production. And if you told them right now, would you engage, would you go for a white collar job, would you go out there and look for a job if things went bad, they'll tell you, no, I'll start from zero and still continue with what I'm doing. That shows us that we are endowed continent. We are endowed with good soils. We are endowed with beautiful frameworks, policies. Yes, and then of course that takes us to the table of implementation. Probably that's where we go wrong. But when it comes to reforms, when it comes to frameworks, we are good to go. So when we look at the the Agenda 2063, and then a little bit back into the Malabo Declaration and the Maputo, we know that the Maputo Declaration was initiated in 2003, and then a decade after that is 2013, there was a revision onto that particular declaration. But Malabo didn't come to eliminate Maputo. What it came is to elevate the discussion on some of the issues that had been left out, like the agricultural private sector. It had not been tackled, it had not been handled. So when they come back with the Malabo, they're now engaging the private sector to make sure that the agricultural private sector is now actively engaging in the agricultural sector. And then a youth on wealth creation. We have seen that multiple times being promoted by our very own government. And so far, so good. We have the youth program, we have the EMIOGA, we have the PDM, and of course initially PDM was so focused on anyone engaging in farming, then you are eligible to get this money. But of course now the door is open to each and everyone who can, bring in or who can make profits in any area of business. So Malabo Declaration is a declaration that still stands until now. And the missing gaps, again, will be discussed in these discussions that are happening at Munyonyo. So right now, there was an earlier interview by our very own correspondent, that is Jerome Paul at Munyonyo. We want to again unveil that and go through it and see what unfolds in that interview. Yeah, so let's get to Paul.
However, after the tea break, I remind that we shall be having plenary sessions. Now, these plenary sessions will be closed, and among us the key things that are going to be talked about in the plenary sessions will include consideration and adopting, that is the work program, and as well there will be consideration and there will be presentation of the 10-year Caadp strategy and action plan for 2026 to 2025. But now that said, as the many delegates and ministers are having their tea break, we are privileged to be joined by the regional coordinator of Eastern and Southern Africa from Agra. This is Professor J.J. Muhinda joining us here this very morning at Caadp 25. A very good morning and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, Joram. Thank you for having me today.
All right. You are live on UBC, and please, when you look into the Caadp Summit, we're already off it. One may wonder, looking into the 10-year strategy, how important and how significant is it?
Very good. Thank you very much. So let me just remind people that Caadp, known as the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Plan, is the guiding framework for agricultural development in the continent. This year we are launching, as you rightly said, a new 10-year strategy and action plan that starts 2026 and is going to take us up to 2035. So this is the third cycle of Caadp planning. For those who might be familiar with the framework, it started back in 2003 in Maputo, and then we moved after 10 years to Malabo, and here we are in Kampala, and the objective of this summit today is actually to review the strategy and get it endorsed, and once endorsed by the head of states, it's going to be the guiding framework for investment, for planning, for implementation in the next 10 years.
And besides that, again, one may wonder, looking into the expectations of the Kampala Declaration, what would the viewer and any person involved in the agriculture sector expect amongst the key declarations that will be laid?
Absolutely. The Kampala Declaration, for those who are familiar with the sector, is going to be slightly different from the Malabo Declaration, which has led us for the last 10 years. And there are things that have been taken into consideration, including lessons from the Malabo implementations that were taken forward into the Kampala Declaration. Number one, in the Kampala Declaration, the new Caadp roadmap for the next 10 years has a very strong approach on food systems, which is different from what the Malabo was. Malabo was specifically focusing on agricultural development. This one goes beyond agriculture and looks at the food systems comprehensively. That brings on board other sector ministries other than agricultural, health, for instance, environment, for instance, youth employment, for instance. So that is a uniqueness, one of the unique areas of the Kampala Declaration. Number two, this new roadmap is taking place when the continent is facing serious challenges on climate change. So it has a very strong component on building resilience of our agri-food sector for the next 10 years. So investment are going to be really looking from a food systems-wide approach other than just focusing on the agricultural transformation.
And I like the fact that you mentioned something about the theme of building resilient agri-systems. I wonder, though, how can we build these systems in a world where we're having emerging environmental and social problems and challenges?
Very good question. So it's about really planning. You know, when we have been working throughout the last 10 years in the Malabo Declaration, as I said, the focus was more into agricultural sector development. Now we're talking about going beyond agriculture, going beyond food production, going beyond food consumption, and looking at nutrition issues, looking at environmental protection issues, looking at health diet, looking at health itself. So all those pieces brought together inform the new planning and guides the new investment towards building a resilient food systems. As you know, agriculture itself is one of the sectors that contributes to climate change. On the other side, climate change also has an impact on agricultural production. So when you plan these things in isolation, that's why you end up having a system that is not sustainable. So building resilience means bringing all the pieces together, planning a production system that is not harmful to the environment, at the same time mitigating the impact of the climate change to the agricultural sector.
Speaking of stakeholders, Agra is a stakeholder in what we're having today. And I wonder, though, from your point of view, how do you look at the future of agriculture in Africa? And then also, what is your role in this strategy of building resilient agri-systems?
Absolutely. Let me just say up front that Agra is one of the technical institutions that has been accompanying the African Union Commission throughout the whole process of the Caadp planning and Caadp implementation. So moving forward, our role is not going to be changing. In Munyonyo here, the role we're playing is just backstopping the African Union. It's not Agra alone, together with other mandated institutions in the continent that have a role to play in this framework. As an institution that deals specifically with agriculture, our role is to support implementation of the Caadp moving forward. So we do play a critical role supporting national government, we do play a critical role supporting private sector, we do play a critical role working with partners to mobilize investment in the agricultural sector. So our specific role, you will see as the plan is being unfolded, it's going to be costly to implement the Kampala Declaration. So we need institutions like Agra and others to mobilize investment and support government putting in place an enabling environment for private sector investment, but also mobilizing resources from different partners. And that is where we come into play, Agra. So we play a role down from supporting smallholder farmers' production system, all the way to engaging national government in terms of putting in place coordination mechanisms, resource mobilization mechanisms, but also accountability mechanisms to make sure that all the resources mobilized are effectively used. But we do also play a role at the regional level and continental level. That's how we come into play as we support the African Union rolling out the new plan for the next 10 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And of course, and in regards to these particular conversations, you get to realize that the issue dealing with building resilient agriculture.
That was Paul Durham there, an earlier on interview there, engaging with one of the delegates in the summit. And of course, that was during the break time. Just a bit of updates. In a few hours, I think, in a few hours, at around 5:30, we will be having a new arrival at Entebbe Airport. One of the delegates that is expected is the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Maize Sako, who is expected to arrive at 5:30. The discussion from Paul Durham talked about a couple of issues there. And one of the interesting things is that when they had the meeting in Maputo, it became the Maputo Declaration. When they went to Malabo, it became the Malabo Declaration. Now, this will be a Kampala Declaration. And of course, again, it is the same, an African Union program geared towards creating more productivity on a 60% arable land that we have in the African continent. And some of the takeaways from that discussion were supporting smallholder farmers. Yes, if we can incorporate that in our own farming systems, then we can have a yielding, better, productive agriculture sector. Resource mobilization mechanisms as part of the mechanisms that will enable to support and, of course, to drive the agenda of the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, Caadp. So right now we want to take a short break. That, of course, we will return with more on what's happening at Munyonyo and within the studios. Stay with us.
There is myths that so many of you live by. If your eye is twitching, it means you're going to see someone you like. If it shines and rains at the same time, it means a leopard is giving birth. If your hand is itching, it means you're going to get money. If you see an owl, it means somebody's gonna die. If you hear of a disease outbreak, just know it is in a village district at the border next to some suspicious country. You will want to scratch that last myth, because Mpox is in 19 districts and Kampala is among with dozens of cases. Please stop going around checking anyone's hand. Mpox kills. Protect your loved ones.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees.
Paint and win. This year, on Paint and Win. The cook round. Buy paint worth 100K. Get a scratch card. SMS the code to 7197. Stand a chance to win instant airtime, 1 million shillings bully day there, or a share of a 3 million shillings jackpot each week. What do you want the brand new bodas, tuk-tuks, and so much more? Catch the Paint and Win action every Monday on Bukede One, NBS, and Sanyuka TV. Plascon, color your world.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Again, welcome back from that short break. We are still on the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, all happening at Munyonyo. We do have a set of correspondents as well at the airport. They're giving us updates on different arrivals. And at around 5:30, we are expecting the chairperson of the African Union Commission, none other than Moussa Saki, who is arriving at 5:30. And of course, just to run you through the program as it transpired, this is day one. The program runs from 9th of January 2025 to 11th January 2025. Now, some of the activities that happened during the conference. First and foremost, we witnessed, a host of different countries' national anthems. Yes, as you can see there on the screen, there was a host of country and African Union anthems there, welcoming remarks and statements from different speakers. And then, of course, there followed different statements by Honorable Ambassador Josefa Sako, and then also another statement from Dr. Germa Amente. We shared that with you. And then that is from the Republic of Ethiopia. And then we also had a statement from our very own Honorable Frank Twebaze. And then we also had there another session there of a group photos. Yeah, if you scroll down there, group photos during the break time there. And then there was also another activity there, consideration and adoption of the work program. and then they entered into the session, the plenary session, where the presentation of the 10-year Caadp strategy and action plan was presented to be for 2026 and 2035, and then the official opening of the exhibition, which is now happening right now. And then closing remarks from Ambassador Josefa Sako, the AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development and the Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment. Then Honorable Frank Twebaze again will give the closing remarks there, and the day one session will be ended. And of course, what we witness right now is that very soon we will be also ending our session. Now, I wanted us to talk a little bit about the blue economy. Yeah. As we wind up, we want to discuss a little bit about the blue economy. Now, the blue economy is more of the blue ocean, how we can better leverage on the economy. If we can get all resources, all avenues where we can leverage to better the agricultural sector, then we cannot exclude the blue ocean economy, where fishing is done, and then where we can also look at the biodiversity area of it. If we do really want to have agricultural resources contribute, because right now we all know that agricultural resources are Africa's definitive asset base, and it actually contributes to the continent's GDP, which right now stands at a 23%. And for a 23% means it will give quite a bigger percentage in terms of employment. And this will come in the area of self-employment, more of self-employment. So if we have more workforce creating jobs, then more jobs for those who can create jobs for themselves. So the ocean blue, fishing activities and fish farming, all these things, as they fall into play, we pull from every avenue to be able to better the agricultural sector. Tomorrow we will be having the same sessions. Yeah, we will have different sessions. Again, we're still with Caadp Kampala 2025, and we know that as we all geared towards transforming a better agriculture, not just Uganda, but across the continent, we need to work hand in hand as individuals, as teachers, as parents, as students. We need to work to better this agricultural sector, because that's what we can leverage on as a continent. That's what we have. That's the benefit we have. We're endowed with great soils. We're endowed with good climate. So if we can leverage on that strength that we have, then Caadp will live on, and we'll have more declarations in different countries. Today, Kampala Declaration has been launched, and of course, and then the other a meeting will also happen in another country. But we are graced, we embrace the hosting of such, an economic impactful venture into our very own country. And we know we are going to learn a lot. From 44 member states, we are bound to learn quite so much more in the agricultural sector. So right now, as I wind up, we will be giving you different updates on this specific summit 2025 as they unfold. But for now, our time is done. We are going to wind up, probably just to wind up with the program. The plenary sessions are already finished. The official opening of the exhibition right now, I've been receiving some communication that it's already done, and of course we will be able to close the session. The closing remarks will be from Honorable Josefa Sako, the African Union Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, on blue economy and sustainable environment. Yeah, and then Honorable Frank Twebaze will also say something. Honorable Frank Twebaze is Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries for our very own country, Uganda, and as per now, he is the chair of the African Union Development Water and Environment Department in Caadp. So I guess that's it from us. Yes, we will be bringing you more updates as they unfold. My name is Patricia Lukoma Mpango. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and allowing me into your space. Yes, a very good afternoon to you.
In Uganda, agriculture plays a big role in influencing many lives of Ugandans. For more than a decade, the NRM government has deliberately developed and implemented policies aiming at transforming the agriculture sector from peasantry to commercial scale so as to improve household incomes, increase the economic base of the agricultural produce, and reduce the 72% of Ugandans engaged in peasant farming. To fast-track and avoid a repeat of failure drivers in the implementation of such development interventions, government introduced the Apex platform as a forum through which the executive receives high-level oversight results reports on the performance of various government policies and programs with the overall objective of appreciating the achievements, draw lessons from failures of the implementation, and to provide informed guidance towards the effective implementation of interventions for better service delivery.
This Apex platform was launched by His Excellency the President about I think 2 years ago. And as you know, it is a forum for monitoring and implementation of government programs.
We established Apex platform as a forum for the executive public policy management. So Apex platform is a preferred name for that forum, where the executive sit to deliberate on how policies and programs of government are managed and how they are performing, to appreciate the successes and achievements, and then also to appreciate the gaps and possibly the bottlenecks that have failed some of government programs and projects to take off or to be effectively implemented as desired.
Apex comes at a time when President Yoweri Museveni has rallied the government to put emphasis on 4 key sectors: commercialization of agriculture, industrialization, ICT and services as potential drivers for youth employment, wealth creation and improving household incomes.
The 4 economic sectors where their jobs and wealth are commercial agriculture, Emu, with the Chibaro, Chura, Aymar, Otita, counting profitability, industries, services, and ICT.
In 2020, National Development Plan 3 adopted the Apex platform as a high-level public policy management executive forum to strengthen effective public policy management and promotion of good governance practices.
The Apex platform will provide opportunity for 4 major entities to come together and discuss before His Excellency the President. The entities are the Office of the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the National Planning Authority, and the Office of the President as lead.
In its second series high-level results report, APEX focused on the impact of commercialization of agriculture over the period of 2010 to 2021 with a view of appreciating government interventions and provide actionable recommendations on evidence to better inform future government interventions for socio-economic transformation.
And like for the past 13 years, government has injected about 8 trillion in commercialization agenda alone of agriculture. And this money has gone into different value chains of agriculture. And new technologies has been developed, new research, very many have been done. So by doing this, people are adopting to new methods of agriculture. Therefore, we are going to achieve as a country.
Commercialization of agriculture is among the key 4 sectors highlighted in the Vision 2040 that will greatly contribute to wealth and employment creation.
We have looked at commercialization of agriculture in this country, and the report that effect also has come out. So there's been really a lot of intervention and a lot of improvement as far as the 23 strategic objectives are concerned, and the commercialization of agriculture is concerned.
Government has massively invested in modern irrigation technologies through construction of over 10 large and promotion of over 300 small-scale irrigation schemes in line with the zoning strategy and development of reservoirs, which has helped to improve access to water for production and enhanced large-scale farming in the country. As a result, the area under formal irrigation has increased from 14,418 hectares in 2010 to 22,976 hectares in 2023. This is Doho 1 irrigation scheme in eastern Uganda, Butaleja district. It sits on an acreage of 2,500 acres, of which 2,380 are under production. The rest is occupied by farm roads and water canals. The scheme has 4,000 registered farmers, of which